Hey guys, Colleen here, DIYer behind lemonthistle.com, and today I'm excited to try something new. I'm making a vlog. We're talking all about gardening. I've got just like not a huge yard at all, but I'm turning as much of my garden as possible into a cut flower garden so that I can fill my house with fresh flowers all spring, summer, fall long, and even dried flowers over the winter. So I'm gonna try and organize all these clips from growing from seed, where I order things from. I'm in Canada. What can grow in my zone? I'm zone like 5.5, and answering all the questions that I've got on Instagram about this little adventure. This is new for me, the vlog and growing a cut flower garden. So before we get into it, if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, I would love if you did that below so you don't miss out on any more DIY or home decor videos. So first, I thought I should clarify what the difference is between a cut garden and normal garden. So a cut flower garden is just focusing on flowers that are great cut flowers, so you can cut them and put them in vases. So they have long enough stems that you can cut them, and then they also last longer than other flowers in a vase. So instead of one day, they'll last a week or more. So the second thing that I wanted to point out is the difference between perennials and annuals. I used to only plant perennials. Perennials means that they'll come back year after year, at least for a few years. So some perennial cut flowers are daffodils, coneflowers, tulips, peonies, Japanese anemones, sedum, bee balm, some asters, phlox, rudbeckia, hellebores, and I'm sure that there's more. I may be saying these names wrong, but these are flowers that will come back year after year, and you can cut them and they will give you flowers as long as you take care of them each year. So up until last year, those were the only flowers that I would buy. I just felt like it wasn't worth me spending money on something that would only give me 1 year of flowers. I just really wanted a lower maintenance garden. But we bought these zinnias on a whim at the grocery store last year. My daughter thought they were really pretty and wanted to plant them. And they gave us so many flowers for under $3. And after that, I'm like, this is actually a great deal. You get so many plants for less money. And then my aunt invited us over, because I'd said I'd wanted poppies, to collect some of her poppy seeds of these pretty purple poppies, and explained to me that I can collect seeds from my zinnias as well. So I did that last fall. I have just planted both those poppy seeds and the zinnia seeds. I'm hopeful for them to come up. But I mean, if you can collect the seeds from your annual flowers each year and then replant them, that is the most affordable option to get cut flowers. So I am adding in annuals that I can grow from seed to the perennials that I've had for a couple of years. So you can see some of the seeds that I direct sowed in the garden about a week ago have already started popping up. I'm so excited. Some seeds you do need to start early instead of direct sowing them into the garden like I have here. All right, let's head into my laundry room grow station. I feel like it's important to note that I have never started seeds before. Our laundry room is totally unfinished, but there's room in here for this. Look at that. So after our successful zinnia experiment last year, I dove in and started researching cut flower seeds online, and there are so many available. In the fall, seed sales started happening right around my birthday, so I bought myself some for my birthday, and then my family caught wind of it, and I got gift cards to flower seed shops. But now I have so many that we actually had to make our gardens bigger, and I had to learn how to grow them from seeds. Our landscaper is a good friend of mine, and he's like, you've ordered every single seed off the internet. I'm like, pretty close, yes. So in February, I started my little grow station in the basement laundry room here. It's been a fun project for the kids and I to watch them grow, but I definitely cut some corners and used some of the cheapest materials available, but it still seems to be going pretty well. So this is just a folding table that I've had since we lived in an apartment and had to have extra space every once in a while. And then I've done this pretty affordably. So I did order this light off Amazon. This is like my one purchase. It was $36, I think, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. And you can put it on a timer so it goes off after 12 hours, and you can change the color of the light. So this one here with the pink and the red and the blue, can you kind of see that? that apparently mimics the sun, I am told. But there, the plants look better in the green light. And then these bulbs are all just dollar store grow light bulbs. I'll show you. They were $4. And so I just stole my kids' lamps and my lamp and just put grow bulbs in. This isn't ideal. This is up way too far, but I can't get this to go any lower. But having the light up too high can make them leggy, which is what this is. It means that they're like stretching for the light. So they're not quite as strong. So I should probably like bring these upstairs and put them on the deck during the day. So I'm just using cookie trays here. I also got these trays from the dollar store as well, and they had lids, so when things were shorter, the lids fit on. The lids don't fit on any of them anymore. This is just like a plant container that the little tiny plant pots came in. The store that I painted the mural at, they just get rid of these. So I went and got them, and it fits inside the cookie sheet. And then I just water in there, and there's holes in the bottom of these, so they can be bottom watered. One thing I have learned is that seeds like to be bottom watered so that it like picks up the water through their roots instead of watered on top of, because you'll see if I water on top of this, it'll like flop right down and goodbye. So let's water. So you can add a fertilizer. Transplant solutions. I figure I'll do that right before they go outside. And one of these days I will have a laundry room with a sink, but for now it's this beautifully unfinished space. So again, I just water the trays instead of the plants themselves, and then they suck it all up. Okay, I wanted to show you the difference between these little pots and things like you need to put your own soil in, and then you just plant like this whole thing. These are different. This is also from the dollar store. This one was from Home Depot and it was like $4, but this one was dollar store for like $1.50, I think. But these come in like little pucks. Then you add warm water to them and they turn in. These are snapdragons that I just collected from my aunt's garden. So they're not like, and I just threw a bunch on here because I didn't know how they'd grow. Here, there's nothing growing in this one. So they expand from pucks into little, I don't know, netted soil things. So they come with the soil in them, and then you just plant this whole thing and the roots will come out. So this one is pretty full of plants. You can see there's some roots coming out the bottom kind of. And so that's pretty easy too. I did them both ways and I had the most success in like these cardboard things, but I do have like a little bit of like white dust on some of them, which I think is a kind of mold, which I don't love. But I mean, they grew significantly better than the ones that I put in these little pucks. So I'm not sure. I don't know. And then for lights, they're supposed to be like 1 inch above. And when you have the lid on them, you can like rest the light right on the lid, which is cool. And if you have not enough lights for enough plants, you can leave your lights on like 24/7 and just in the morning move them from these plants to these plants. And then at the night, move them back over so that they each get like equal amounts of light. So that's what I've been doing, is just moving them so that everything gets as much light as possible. And then this one, I just like turn around so that everything gets all the light it needs. And these ones seem pretty happy with that. So I guess what I'm just trying to say here is that most of these things are from the dollar store and or don't cost a lot of money. I didn't want to put a huge investment into this in case it was a total flop. So I spent under $50 on like the growing supplies, and then I spent lots more money on like seeds and tubers and plants and things like that. But I figured it's gonna add up to less than what I would spend on cut flowers over the summer, since I love cut flowers, and with my job, I'll often buy them if I have like a big project and I want to have like flowers on the table or something like that. I'll reward myself for doing the big project by buying flowers. So that's my thought process. But you could totally start with like $1 store tray, 1 pack of seeds for $2, and a dollar store light for $4. So definitely a fun experiment, but it's like it needs a lot of attention. So each seed has different recommendations on how soon you should start it. The sweet peas were the soonest for me. I think they were 12 10 to 12 weeks before the last frost that you're supposed to start them, and they go right up to 4 to 6 weeks before the last frost. And then once it gets warm like it has now, then you can start hardening them off, which just means bringing them outside for a couple hours or for the daytime and bringing them back inside at the nighttime, so they have a chance to get used to like real weather before you shock them and throw them outside full time in the ground. So that's what I'm doing here. The seedlings that I am hardening off do not look so sure about this hot weather today, so I'm gonna give them some more water before we go to soccer practice because they're looking so sad. All right, so while we are talking about seeds, I thought that I would share where I ordered mine from or picked them up from, keeping in mind that I live in Canada. Seeds are something that you can order from the States, actually. Bulbs and tubers or anything living you cannot order over the border, but seeds you can get from anywhere. So I ordered a lot from Floret. That's the first place I ever ordered seeds from because I follow them on Instagram and I am just in love with their content. I also ordered a lot from Whistling Prairie Flowers and from Johnny's Select Seeds. And there are so many places that you can buy seeds from. It's kind of just looking at what is available, the price of each, plus shipping, and deciding what's the best bargain for you to get what you're looking for. I will put all of the places that I have looked and or ordered from, and I will maybe like star the ones that I've ordered from that I am seeing successful plants growing already if you are interested here. I also did get some from the like grocery store or Home Depot when I was looking there, but like again, like $2.29. And then these little bunny tails, you get like a bunch of them, like 15 of them for like $8. Dried, and you can dry these. So I also got quite a few things that can be dried. So like these can be dried, sea oats can be dried. I think the feverfew can be dried too. Celosia can be dried. I got lots of things that can be dried, so hopefully I'll have flowers through till like Christmas, like through the winter as well. Okay, so I do want to talk a little bit about garden planting, but first let me show you what I do have in my garden. All right, starting in the front yard, these are actually my front planters or urns. In the fall, I put, grasses in them, and at Christmas time, I put evergreens in them. So this plant is from Superstore. It was $12, and it's doing so well. It's had so many flowers. It's been like a few weeks of flowers, and I've given flowers to lots of people that come over just out of these front planters, which is fun. But this is the same type of plant. This one's from Walmart, and you can see it's like once the flowers that were blooming on it from the store died off, there has been no more. Like not even shoots, not buds, nothing. So I've had great success with Superstore flowers. My hellebores are from there as well. Once your plants start flowering, it's important to deadhead them or cut them, and that will encourage more growth. If you are going to cut them for cut flowers and want to have them last a long time in the vase, it's best to cut them when they are just starting to open as opposed to when they are wide open. This is our front gardens. When we moved in, this was just all rocks with a giant tree in the middle. So we took down the tree pretty quickly because it would throw sap on our vehicles in the driveway. But left the rocks for quite a while, and eventually we tried moving some of the rocks to make gardens in here around the stump, but there was like 2 feet thick of rocks over there, and then when we finally got underneath the rocks, they were just on top of an entire yard of turf. And after spending weeks moving rocks by hand, we called, our friend is a landscaper, he owns a landscaping company, so we hired them to finish it. So made these beautiful garden beds for us. And they weren't big enough for all my flowers, so we called them back this year and they brought some more rocks to make them bigger for us. This one just went, you can kind of see the old dirt and then the new dirt. And we made all of them bigger. Like this one here was just this small space up here, and we made this whole space bigger. With the bigger garden beds, I also had to add some more sprinkler heads, so I invited my dad over to supervise me doing that. Adding more sprinklers, so I found the main like 1-inch line here, and this is like a poker. So you poke a hole. This is the regulator that stops so much water from coming through. They just come attached to this. And then we'll put this on the spaghetti line, which is just a flexible small water line. So You cut that. These are just dollar store shears, but they have a spot for it, which is great. That's probably more than enough. And his handy tip is to use these like pliers to hold this because it hurts my fingers so bad putting that in the thing or pushing it in. Oh no, water's coming out of this one. I put it straight up and down again. Thanks. I think you're supposed to put it in the side, but I keep forgetting. Just hide it. There we go. This goes in the other line of the spaghetti line. Run it through the rocks. There we go. Oh, it doesn't quite reach. Could have made it a little bit longer, but that's good. And then you could dig this underneath if you wanted to. So I just planted yesterday. You can see all the handprints or where we've planted seeds. Some of them are just surface sow seeds. So you kind of just pack them in like that. And then some of them you actually bury, and they'll say on the package, but all right, so in the front yard, everything I chose is mostly deer resistant because we have some deer friends that like to come and visit. So I'll just run you really quickly through what I planted. And it's funny, even in the week since I took this video that I've been editing it, so many more things are popping up. So you'll kind of see different stages here in the video as I show you what is opening. So for seeds, I have planted zinnias, poppies, some cosmos, and some aromanthus. I also have some filler kind of bushes like this 9-bark here and some asters. In the large garden in the middle here, you can see the daffodils are all coming up. Daffodils are supposedly deer resistant, so I figure I'll buy a new variety of those every year and hopefully in a few years have an amazing display. But I also have hydrangeas and a rose bush in there. I also planted some calendula and some ranunculus and anemones. I also planted some dahlia tubers, which is kind of like a root that you plant underground. Dahlia tubers, peony roots, ranuncula, and anemone corms are all things that I would have to order from Canada since they are living. And you plant them underground, kind of like bulbs in the spring, and wait for them to pop up. So you can see there's some popping up here. And speaking of dahlias, yes, I did start some dahlia seeds downstairs as well. Seeds are kind of a wild card. They are not true to the plant that you pick them from. They could show up any kind of variety, or they're essentially crossbreed dahlias depending what they were pollinated with. Dahlia tubers, however, are splitting the mother plant, a piece of the root. So that's what these are here. So I know what I'm going to get from these when I buy them. Most plants aren't like that. Dahlias are kind of tricky, but I love them so much, so I'm willing to try it. All right, welcome to our little hidden garden in our side yard up by the playhouse here. This garden was totally overtaken with weeds. That entire bucket came out of here. This garden doesn't get a ton of sun, and because of that, we used to have a giant peony here. It was so established, but in the 3 years we lived here, we got 1 or 2 summers, I guess, before now. We got only 1 peony. So we dug that up and moved that down to the backyard where it's gonna get more sun and hopefully we'll get some more blooms from it. So far it looks like it's doing well. As for shaded things that we have planted in here, I've chosen to plant northern sea oats, which is a cool kind of filler that you can dry. I have planted astilbe, which again is kind of like a fluffy, colorful filler. And then I've also planted Astrantia majorwort, I believe it's called. And then in the sunny area, I've planted the sweet peas that I've been hardening off. I accidentally forgot those outside overnight and they did wonderfully. So I've put them in the ground and it's a week and a half in now and they're doing great. And I've also planted seeds for Dieradocus. Both of those need to climb, just like this other vine that I planted in here that I cannot remember what it is called. I planted it last year. If you know, let me know. I tried just stapling it to the fence. Clearly that's not going well. So I need to come up with a better system to help these plants climb the fence. All right, so into the backyard. We just built a fence here this year. I'm so excited because it's going to keep our friends, the deer, out. So I've moved all of my tulips back here that I could dig up in the front garden. We have a big lilac bush in this corner, so it is a little bit shady, but it gives so many beautiful blooms in the spring. They're almost ready to burst right now. Underneath there, we do have this rhododendron, and we've never been able to see it bloom. I'm so disappointed. So I've thrown some extra fertilizer on there this year, and I'm hoping that'll do it. Other than that, we do have these beautiful peonies, and one of them, this one right here, is the one that we moved from up top that I mentioned while we were looking at that top side garden, and it looks like it's doing wonderfully. I think it's going to bloom this year. We also have a giant white one that got drowned last year from an irrigation issue, but that's all fixed up and it's growing back beautifully. We do have another small peony that we moved with us from our last place, and it's never bloomed either, but I'm hoping by moving them to the area of the garden that this one does so wonderfully that they're all going to be happy here. We do have these lily of the valleys. They're awful. I know that some people like them. They have a beautiful smell. They are really pretty, but they are so invasive. They will actually like overgrow and kill other plants that are in the garden beds. So these here are Japanese anemones. They are so beautiful. They are deer resistant and they come back year after year. So we have quite a collection of those. They are different than the anemones I started. They typically have the yellow center, whereas the ones that you plant in corms that you have to plant each year have a black center. So at this point in the garden, we have these perennials growing. I have put all of my direct seeds into the gardens, and I'm waiting for those to grow. All of my corms, tubers, roots are planted in the garden as well. I just have the seeds that I started early that I am hardening off that I'll need to plant here in the next week or so. And then the garden will be totally in, and I need to start weeding again because they grow back so fast. I also spent some time adding in fertilizer and mixing in some manure, and I'm hoping that that's going to make a big difference in some of these older plants that we've had for a long time that haven't been flowering as much. All right, also in this back garden, I have two different flowering trees. I have a forsythia here, which is beautiful early spring. The flowers are just starting to die off this week. And then I have this white flowering tree. I'm not sure what it is. And then we have a pear tree too. Flowering branches make such beautiful home decor. Down the other end, I've planted some more dahlias here, and then I also have this patch of 4 different hellebores. I love the hellebores. They are the first thing to come out each spring. I have had hellebore flowers on my counter for weeks now. They're so beautiful and they last so long in a vase. Okay, so that's what I have outside already. Anything that you see blooming is a perennial, except for those ranunculus in the front planters that I purchased. And then I am planting the annuals, and I'm going to try my best to either dig them up and or collect seeds from them so that I can have them next year. But that's really an experiment for me. Let's talk about planting a garden. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I planned my garden on my iPad. There was a certain point in my research where I realized, oh my goodness, I have no idea what I bought, what seasons they bloom, whatever. So I started this. This is in GoodNotes on my iPad Pro. And I made myself a little spreadsheet here. You could do this in Excel, whichever. And so this one here, I put if they were deer resistant, yes, no, kind of. I, again, aimed for mostly deer resistant plants. And I started with the ones that were already in my yard, and I worked down to ones that I want to get eventually. And I think I ended up getting all of these. There are so many things to consider when you're looking at what to plant in your garden. It is nice to make a spreadsheet, I found, because not every listing that you're looking at when you're ordering seeds or bulbs or whatever have all the information that you might be interested in. And so then you can easily find it with a little Google search. So I put in this spreadsheet if it was deer resistant. I put how much sunlight it needs, from sun to part sun to shade. I put which month it will bloom, and I also added the height of the plant when it is full grown, so we wouldn't have our zinnias dwarfing our little mini hydrangeas this year. Other things you might want to note is which zone they grow in. Do they even grow in your zone? And also if they make good cut flowers, if that's something that you're interested in like I was. And then if they need to be planted ahead of time, if you need to start the seeds before the last frost, or if you can direct sow them in the garden in the spring. The other thing that I did is I drew out my gardens and I just marked off what I have in there for perennials and then kind of marked zones where I would plant the annual seeds that I ordered based on the amount of sun I know those gardens get and whether they were in the front yard, so needed to be deer resistant, or the backyard where deer wouldn't be able to get with the new fence we built. And then because I was having a hard time making decisions and this was over Christmas break, I had all the time in the world. I also pulled pictures of each of them and kind of slotted them into my garden to see if I had kind of collections that would look beautiful in vases together. And that was just a fun thing to do. That's not something that you need to do. And then I did want to point out this little tip that I have for you. So I got these ones and I got these ones, but look at. You can get a packet for $4.25 or you can get 500 seeds for $5.85, so for just $1 more. So if you're not the only person doing a garden, this is really great because then you can share and end up with quite a few more seeds. I mean, I have no need for 500 seeds, but of course I ordered that and I've given them to my dad and everybody that I know that has a garden. Some are going in at my grandma's, like they're going everywhere. All right, so I'm gonna leave it at that. That was so much information. I had a hard time even cutting it down into here because I could talk about flowers all day. So I will plan to do a follow-up to this in the late summer when everything's blooming. But if you have questions, I am more than happy to answer them with what I know so far. But again, I am learning as I go and I'm having so much fun with this. And then because I am just so pleased with how the garden is coming together, I wanted to show you this bouquet that I gathered this week. This is all from my garden and I am just so happy with how many flowers I'm seeing even just in this first few days of May. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss any more DIY or home decor videos. And if you enjoyed the vlog style video, instead of the typical tutorial style video that I did, I'd love to hear about that in the comments too. And yeah, got so much more work to do on this garden, but I'm just trusting the process and trusting that I'm gonna get all the flowers to make it worthwhile.